Isabel woke bright and early. She looked out her window and saw that it was a nice day. She showered and dressed and ran downstairs where she saw her mother had already left for work. She grabbed a bowl of cereal, ate it as quickly as she could, and headed for the yard. She arrived and headed straight for Rocky's stable, where he was waiting patiently for her. She could hear the whinny of Ellie and smiled to herself at the familiar sound. She greeted him with pure excitement, and the horse lightened up as he saw her. He had already had his head collar on, so she guessed her mum had given the horses their breakfast and got him ready for her to ride when she awoke, like she did every morning. Rocky was pleased to come out of the stable, so Isabel quickly brushed him, as she could tell he was eager to get out hacking. When Isabel entered the tack room, she saw her mother had already got his tack set up for her. As she tacked Rocky up, she thought to herself, she didn't know what she would do without her mother. She couldn't imagine her life without her. All her mother ever did, it seemed, was look after her and care for her and make her life easier. Once mounted and ready to go, she set off at a fast pace and headed for her favourite place in the world. As she rode to the lake, she concentrated on the clip-clop sound of Rocky's hooves against the tarmac. She liked to listen to this, as she liked to try and make a tune out of the sound, and it soothed her and made her feel relaxed. After what seemed to be forever, she finally arrived at the track and couldn't control her excitement. She took off into a canter and headed straight for the lake, enjoying the fresh air and silence that was the countryside. As she approached the opening for the lake, she was shocked at what she saw. The lake seemed to be shining in some sort of way. At first she thought it was the sun that made it like that. It was just her eyes deceiving her. But as she looked closely, she realised that that was not the case. She walked Rocky towards the edge of the lake to get a closer look, and the closer she got, the more it shined. As she reached the edge of the lake, Rocky seemed desperate for a drink, and before she could stop him, he was drinking the water. The water was shining more than ever, and she felt compelled to touch it. She wondered whether it might be a different touch, but as she scooped up the water and washed her hands in it, it felt no different. She was disappointed. She thought there must be something going on here, but obviously not. Suddenly, she felt and heard something strange going on behind her. As she turned round, her confusion was answered. Rocky seemed to have... But it couldn't have been possible. He had turned into a unicorn, it seemed. He had a beautiful horn that glowed coming out of his head. She went to try and pull it off, but she could see it was coming out of the skin. Then he suddenly seemed to tense up. He was looking at something, as it seemed to be bothering him quite a bit. She turned round and couldn't believe her eyes. In the distance, a rainbow had suddenly appeared, shining brighter than any rainbow she had ever seen before. It looked like it had been drawn there in the distance. It couldn't be real. She thought she could see a golden barrel at the end of the rainbow. She couldn't believe her eyes and thought to herself that this was because of the water Rocky drank, and she had touched. And now the world had become a fairy tale. She ran to the lake and started rubbing the water into her arms again. She looked up across the lake, and the rainbow had gone. The golden barrel at the end seemed like it had never even existed. She turned around, remembering Rocky, the unicorn, and saw that he was no longer glowing, and his horn had disappeared. She examined his head with disappointment. She looked back over the lake, and nothing was there. She realised then that she had imagined everything, and must just be tired. There was no such thing as unicorns, and you couldn't reach the end of a rainbow. Feeling defeated, she got back on Rocky and headed home. She took one more look over the lake, and nothing was there. The lake still shone, but everything else was normal. She knew she should forget what she thought had just happened, but there was no way she could. She thought about it all the way home and decided that she would return tomorrow.